40 years ago, Diana Ross introduced the then president of her fan club, J. Randy Taraborrelli, to a 10-year-old Michael Jackson. They became friends long before Randy wrote the definitive biography of the singer entitled Michael Jackson, The Magic, the Madness, the Whole Story. Randy has now updated the book. Randy, good morning.
Good morning, Julie. I think you just told my age, but that's okay.
I'm sorry. Okay. Hopefully people aren't thinking with the
right.
math this
that's
morning
not calculated yet, right?
The updated portion of your book is just known simply as The Final Years, and you describe those final years as Michael Jackson's happiest years of his life. Why?
Well, you know, I talked to him twice during those final years, Julie, and, you know, those are the years that he got to spend with his kids. Those were the years that he was not focused on his career, but he was focused on his family. And it was really the first time in his life that being #1 on the charts and being #1 in the performance industry was not his main concern. And thank goodness, you know, that he had those years with his kids. And I think in many respects those were his best years. But that said, Julie, you know, he was an addict, and he became a real addict during those years and never really recovered.
You talked about painkillers.
Yeah.
How did that start?
You know, I think it really started after the trial in 2003. I mean, he had a dependency on pain medications prior to that time. But after the trial, and you and I talked about that trial many times right here, the addiction just became so severe, he never recovered from the emotional trauma of that trial.
When was the last time you talked to Michael Jackson?
Oh, it was about 2 years ago.
And what was his state of mind like then?
Well, you know, he seemed to be happy. I mean, he seemed to really be excited about the time that he was having with his kids. And, you know, in the recent 6 months, he was very, very excited about the comeback tour that he was about to do. He really felt that this was an opportunity to, you know, to perform for his children. He said that he wanted to do it while he was young enough to be able to perform and they were old enough to be able to understand what he was doing.
Your first formal interview with Michael Jackson was when he was 17 years old,
yes.
And then up until 2 years ago, you had access to him. I mean, just countless times you've said,
yes.
You can't even count how many times you've interviewed him. To the people who've never met him and fans, we think he led an odd life. But you say he wasn't odd. Was it an image that he created? He wanted people to think of him as...
Well, you know, he was such a nice guy, but he was so conflicted in so many ways, and he did compartmentalize his life in many ways that I thought was very interesting. For instance, I think people don't know, for instance, that Katherine Jackson, Michael's mother, has never met Debbie Rowe. I think that is so astonishing considering what's going on right now. And when they see each other today, if they do see each other at court today, it'll be the first time that they ever met. And Michael and Debbie Rowe were married for 3 years, so it just shows you how strange, you know, his life was.
Why didn't the two women ever meet? And how would you describe the marriage he had with Debbie Rowe?
Well, Michael explained to me that Debbie Rowe was supposed to be a surrogate mother to his children and that he never really intended to marry her. And if he had had his way, she would have been very much like the mother of his third child, Blanket. We would not know who she is. But because of pressure from his fans and from what he felt from members of his family, he did marry her, and then she became a public person.
Did Michael ever describe to you, did he ever say he indeed is the biological father of his 3 children?
Yes, he did.
He just stated that's fact, that he is the dad.
Yes, Michael Jackson stated that many times that he was the father, and I really think that it's a mystery question, but in so many ways, obviously, he was the father. I mean, he loved those children and he cared for them, and as far as they were concerned, he was daddy. In
the final seconds, describe to me the marriage between him and Lisa Marie Presley.
You know what? That was the real relationship for Michael Jackson. He told me so many times that he had such strong emotion and feelings for Lisa Marie, and though many people in the public thought that that was a publicity stunt and something that was, you know, a sham in many ways, it really wasn't. I've got to tell you, Julie, that was the love of his life.
So what broke it apart?
You know, pressure. It's hard to explain. I wrote about it in my book. It took a lot of chapters, but it was something he never really got over. That relationship was something that meant a lot to him.
Was it that he wanted children with her?
Oh yeah, well of course that's true too. He did want children with her. Thank you. And she, you know, she didn't want to have a child because she was concerned that the marriage wasn't strong enough to last, and she didn't want to. She told me have a custody battle with Michael Jackson over a child, and so he turned to Debbie Rowe, and that's how Debbie Rowe ended up having his children.
J. Randy Taraborrelli, thank you.
Thank you, Julie. It's great to see you.
Great to see you, too.